Let's give it up for Pastor Bill and Sandy Shear sitting right over here on the front row. Amazing pastors. My wife, the preschool director, Chano Trevino, is here. The mother of my 17 kids. It's amazing. Just kidding, 5. People have come up and asked me before, you have 17 kids? Like, we may have 17 kids at our house every day, but it's not, we give them to somebody else. But I love this church. I've been here, since I was a student at ORU, and as you can tell, that was a long time ago. I started coming to Guts Church in 2001, and I'd never been to a place like this. Never. I didn't grow up in church, so I had an expectation. The few churches that I'd been to, it's like that's what church is. And this place revolutionized how I saw church, revolutionized how I saw how we could actually reach people, right? I always say normal people, right? I was a normal guy. I wasn't a church guy. I didn't know anything. I didn't have any really understanding, but I was normal. And I came to a church, and I thought, man, I love this. He's talking my language. It's a language that I understand. And that meant everything to me, right? Like somebody who's speaking to you in your language. I loved God. I was passionate about God. I thought I knew the direction I was going, and coming to this church just catapulted me even farther than I ever imagined. I remember the first time I got to speak up here, you think I speak fast now? Just imagine being nervous. And it was like, you're like, is that Spanish or English? But it was always English. Like that's how fast it was. But I'm very, very honored to be on the stage tonight. Last time I had the chance to speak, I really felt like the Lord gave me the word peace. And it's funny because it wasn't like it was it. It was peace. My wife would ask me, and I said, peace. I don't know. Like, I guess got to build something around that. And it's crazy because same thing this time, but the word was battle. I was like, battle? Like, what? How do you build something around battle? Like, it didn't make sense to me because like I imagine in my head the word fight. But fight, there's an end to it, right? It's pretty quick. Sometimes battles, you don't know how long they're going to go. Right, with the storm, I'm from Oregon. We don't have storms like we had here. And so I get on my radar, and I'm like, how long is this going to last? Like, how long do I need to pray in tongues? Right, like I just need to know. I hit play, and it shows me the storm's going to be gone at 6:44. And I'm like, okay, at 6:44, I'm good. So it's like right, with the fight and the storm, but sometimes battles feel open-ended. Sometimes battles are like, I don't see the end of this. I don't even know how this ends. But can I just tell you, if you love God, the battle ends with you winning. Like, it's not even like it's not even a conversation piece. You got to know that. It may not feel like it in that moment, and you may not even be able to see how you can have that victory. You just have to know beyond a doubt, trust God, love God, that you win. That you win. That the enemy doesn't get any victory in your life because you love God. It's like having the biggest friend in school. No one's going to mess with you, right? Like, I'm good. I was smart. I wrestled 119 pounds as a senior in high school. 5'6", 119 pounds. That's not much at 17 years old. But my best friend was 6'4", 220. Right? We're good. I was a smart aleck. I could talk to whoever I want because Lee Fiocchi is standing next to me. And if Lee Fiocchi is standing next to you, you're good. That's how it is in our relationship with God. And I think we forget that sometimes. That the name of Jesus is above every name. So that everything in your life that you're dealing with has to bow to the name of Jesus. Whatever it is, like Pastor Bill says, if there's a sickness and they name it, it has to bow to the name of Jesus. Whatever you're dealing with in your finances, that has to bow to the name of Jesus. So I'm going to help you guys. Whether you're in a battle or you're with somebody who's going through a battle, I hope this helps. I hope this helps because I know sometimes they can feel like, when does this end? Like, when am I through this stage, right? Like, when does that kid quit teething? Like, when do they have all their teeth and they don't cry at night anymore? And I don't know when it stops. It's like I hear it. It's like I've been to battle and I still hear it. Romans chapter 7, verse 18 says this. It says, and I know that nothing good lives in me. That is in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. But if I do what I don't want to do, I am not really the one doing wrong. It's the sin that living in me that does it. Verse 21. I've discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. I love God's law with all my heart, but there's another power within me that is at war with my mind. This power makes me a slave to sin that is still within me. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that's dominated by sin and death? 25, thank God. Verse 25 says this. Starts just, thank God, exclamation point. It says, the answer is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Because here's the reality. I remember when I first got saved, I was like, how do you stop doing this stuff? Whatever it was, you name it, it felt like there was no way around it because everybody I knew was involved somehow with something that was a trap or a vice or had me stuck in life. And so I read that and I was like, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like because I want to do what's right now, but I feel like I just end up doing what's wrong. And I know what not to do, but somehow I end up doing it anyways. And I felt stuck, and I was reading this verse, and I thought, oh, this guy knows exactly what I'm talking about. This guy's speaking my language right here. But he doesn't leave it at that. He doesn't allow sin to have that power in your life. He says, thank God the answer is in Jesus Christ our Lord. So you see how it is? In my mind, I really want to obey God's law, but because of my sinful nature, I'm a slave to sin. And Pastor Bo always talks about this. It goes right on to Romans 8:1. So it's like it's like we keep reading. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep reading. It says, so now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. And because you belong to him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin that leads to death. So in your battle, number one, you got to remember this. You are free from the battle of sin. That's not a battle you have to fight. That's a battle that's already been won. I think sometimes we think that's our main battle. I struggle with this sin. Can I just tell you, the battle's been won. Stop. When I read that, it was so freeing to me because I was like, what am I trying to fight? You're right, within myself, I can't. I have this sinful nature, and it wants to go do these things I know I shouldn't be doing. I can't do it with and of myself. But when I give my life to Jesus, well, this is what I always say to my kids. When you make Jesus the Lord of your life, you make him the boss of your life. There's a kingdom. And when there's a kingdom, there's a way of doing things, right? If I do things the kingdom way, because he now lives in me, he's my Lord, he's my boss, now I'm free from sin and death. All day, sign me up. All day, sign me up. We need that in our lives. So some of you guys, you're dealing with some kind of sin, and I just tell you, if you're still dealing with it, you've dealt with it for too long. It's got to be done. Jesus paid the price so you don't have to deal with that sin anymore. I'm going to read that again. It says, and verse 2 in Romans 8 says, and because you belong to him, the power of the life-giving Spirit has freed you from the power of sin and death. So number one, you got to know that. That's not your battle. Your battle isn't against sin. I think too often we think, this is my battle. Man, this is what I got to fight. Please know, Jesus paid the price for it. He freed you from that sin. Just walk it out. Just walk it out. Man, just live that. I'm going to read a little more in Romans 8. Verse 3 says, the law of Moses was unable to save us because of the weakness of our sinful nature. So God did what the law could not do. He sent his own son in a body like the bodies we sinners have. And in that body, God declared an end to sin's control over us by giving his son as a sacrifice for our sins. He did this so that the just requirement of the law would be fully satisfied for us, who no longer follow our sinful nature, but instead now follow the Spirit. That battle's done. I know there's people in here that you've dealt with that, and you've been dealing with it. And man, you've tried to find every which way to stop doing that. Let God become your primary focus. Let his word be your light and your guide. Man, be led by his Spirit in everything that you do. And I promise you, because the victory's already yours. It's already yours. It's like, just come get your trophy. Just come get your, whatever it is. Like, right, you win. And I need you to understand that, because I think sometimes we feel like, I can't win. I can't catch a break. It's just not working out for me. That's not God. Can I just tell you? And I learned that at this church, right? It says, help people win. That's our motto. Victory. Why? Because that's what Jesus did for us. He gave us the victory. It's just crazy because we don't have to earn this victory. Please understand, I always feel like, well, how do I earn this? Man, what do I have to go say? What prayer do I have to go repeat? What song do I have to go sing? It's yours. He freely gave it to you. Quit trying to earn it. Just live it. Just walk it out. Stop it. It's yours. It's yours. He's your dad. He's your father. He sent his son to pay the price for it. I just want to drive that home. Please don't leave here and think your battle is sin. It's not. You're free from it. He has set you free from it. Number 2, don't go to battle alone. Pastor Bill pulled the staff in a few weeks ago, and he said, if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. Right? Which has been my motto for life. Like, I don't like doing anything alone. If you know me, it's like, and when you have 5 kids, you just make one of them come with you. It's so easy. Like, my friends are married and they have kids now. I'm like, hey, I can't go to the grocery store with you. And I'm like, dang it. Who's going to go with me? And then I'm like, kids, you're my favorite. You come with me today. And that's how we do it. But don't go to battle alone. Don't do it. I think too often we think I'm good. I can fight this fight. Don't do it. Even if you think you can win, it's not worth it. We're not designed to go through things alone. Jesus had his 12 disciples with him, or his 3. The only time you ever heard of him alone is when he was going to spend time with the Father. That's when he was alone. He would get away from the people, he'd go spend time with God, and then he'd always come back to the people. He was with them. He was walking by. He's like, hey, watch what I do. Listen to what I say. He was exampling it all the time. He wasn't alone. Daniel 3. In Daniel chapter 3. I'm not going to read through all of it, but it's the story of King Nebuchadnezzar, who builds a golden statue 90 feet high by 90 feet wide. I can't imagine. He's all about himself. And he's like, we're gonna play all these instruments, we're gonna blare it, and when we do, everybody has to bow. Everybody in the whole kingdom has to bow. Man, music plays, seems like everybody bows, and these astrologers, which we're just gonna call them tattletales right now, these astrologers come to King Nebuchadnezzar and they're like, hey, you remember what you said? You said that if somebody didn't bow when you played the music, that they were going to get dealt with. And he's like, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the Jewish guys that you appointed leaders in this area, didn't bow. He goes crazy. He goes king raging mad. And he's just done. He's like, call them. He's like, I'm going to give you another chance. And they're like, we're not going to bow to you. And our God can save us from that fiery furnace. But even if he doesn't, we're still not bowing to you because he told us not to bow to anything else. And I think about that. I'll never forget, Pastor was up here one time, and he's like, could you imagine being Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and everyone in the whole kingdom is bowing but you? They're going to notice. And hey, let's go over by that tree, and maybe they'll think we're 3 trees newly planted, and we're not doing anything wrong. Right? But he said one time, he goes, they're looking to their left and their right, and they're like, we're not going to bow, right? Like, you're good? Yeah. You're good? Because we're standing, right? Everybody's going to go down, and we're not going to go down. We're going to stand, right? Like, he had that next to him. Changed everything. They had each other. I mean, one alone probably would have given in. But three standing, man, they stood strong. Throws them in the fire. Man, the men that got thrown in, it was so much that it burned them. And he goes, wait, did we throw 3 guys in there? Because there's 4 in there dancing. And he says, King Nebuchadnezzar got as close as he could to the furnace, and he hollered for them to come out. And he said, he called them the servants of the God of Most High's servants. He changed his tune. They were guys that disobeyed him, and they're going to go die. Now they're servants of the Most High God. And he went on to decree, which is a pretty crazy decree, that if anybody spoke bad of the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, let's just say they're going to be dealt with. He got a little bit like, yeah, it's bad. Read then to Daniel 3, and he was like, they're going to be taken care of. Like, and I'm like, this dude was in the mafia. Awesome. Like, he's going to take him out. But he went from, you're going to die, but because they took a stand together, strong together, man, that not only God showed up in the midst of them, and it changed a king's stance. Not only did he call them servants of the Most High God, he said no one can now talk bad about their God. Not that he was a believer even, but he knew there was something special about the God they served, because when everybody else bowed, they didn't. They stood together. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12 says this: 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. I've always loved that. Because I imagine, right, someone's going to try and fight me. And all I'm looking for is Big O. That's who I'm looking for. Used to be Chris Hart. I'm sorry, Chris. It's now Big O. Right? Just a little bigger and cool hair. And so I'm always just thinking, right, 2 are better than 1. And then you give me a third. There's no one in this room that I wouldn't be willing to fight with Big O on this side. But it's that same thing spiritually. God's got your back. This giant that feels too big to fight, this thing that feels like it's swirling over your head and it's controlling it, you have the God Most High. You have the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords who is fighting on your behalf. You win. It doesn't matter the battle. You win. You're not alone. Man, make sure you're grabbing people that are going to speak the word of God over your life, and you place them right by your side. So if there's a chance you fall, they pick you right back up. If there's a chance you begin to doubt, they begin to speak the word of God into your life. They begin to share God's word. They begin to remind you of what God promised you. Because there's going to be times where you can't see it. It's foggy. You're in the middle of it. But your buddy comes alongside and he says, remember what God promised you. Remember what he said to you. Remember what I shared. Remember what you shared with me. In those moments, you need someone standing on your side. Two are better than one. A three-cord strand is not easily broken. Who's standing with you? And can I tell you, you have to have the right people standing with you. They got to be planted in God's house. They got to know God's word. Man, they got to be true friends. Man, they're not going to let you fall. Number 3, don't try and figure out how you'll win. This is where I think kind of I get messed up. Right? I see an obstacle in my life or my family's life, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to overcome this obstacle. I love problem solving. Like, I love it. I'm like, please give me a problem that I can solve. Right? Like, I loved math until there was letters involved. And I'm like, that's English. I don't do that. Like, I like math. I'm numbers, right? Like, I'm all about it. But I love it. I love solving problems. So sometimes this messes with me because I'm trying to figure out how God's going to do it. And can I just tell you, in Isaiah 55, 8 through 13, the Bible says, my thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, and my ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. The rain and the snow, they come down from heaven, and they stay on the ground to water the earth. They cause the grain to grow, producing seed for the farmer and bread for the hungry. It is the same with my word. I send it out, and it always produces fruit. I will accomplish all I want it to, and it will prosper everywhere I send it. That's a promise from God. If that word, that seed is in your heart, it's going to produce 100% of the time. That's his promise. That's his word. That's what he's going to do. That's the part he plays. But too often we forget that his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than and we think we can figure it out. We think, I think I know how God's going to do it this time. And can I just tell you, you're probably never right. Right? Like, it's like, man, he went left and I was going right, and he got it right again. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in, and this is in the Amplified Bible, trust in and rely confidently on the Lord with all your heart. Do not rely on your own insight or understanding. In all your ways, know and acknowledge and recognize him, and he will make your path straight and smooth, removing obstacles that block your way. That's the Amplified, and I love it. Trust in and rely confidently on the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. Don't rely on it. The Bible's different translation says, don't lean on your own understanding. Right? I think that's so easy. Because if God's brought us through something, it's not the way he's going to bring us through the next thing. But I think that's what we think, and so we're waiting for it. And when you don't see it coming to pass, you're like, man, maybe he forgot about me. Maybe this isn't whatever. You begin to doubt. Man, we can't be people that doubt. But you can't be someone trying to figure it out. 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 2. Messengers came and told Jehoshaphat, a vast army from Edom is marching against you from beyond the Dead Sea. They are already at Hazan Tamar. Verse 3, Jehoshaphat was terrified by this news and begged the Lord for guidance. He also ordered everyone in Judah to begin fasting. He's like, listen, there's an army, they're vast, which that's not a number, but I feel like it's a lot. Like, it's a vast, like there's going to be a lot. There's more of them than there are us. And he's like, it says he's terrified, but then he goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fast and we're going to pray. And it's really cool because if you read some of the prayer, he begins to remind God of what he's done for them in the past. And he begins to remind God of why they didn't do certain things to honor him. And he just begins to remind God of the promise that he had made with them. Verse 14, the Spirit of the Lord came upon one of the men standing there. So they're praying. They're fasting. And the Spirit of the Lord comes upon one of the men standing there. His name was Jehaziel, son of Zechariah, son of Benaniah, son of Jael, son of a Levite who was a descendant of Asaph. He said, listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Listen, King Jehoshaphat. This is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Some of you guys need to hear that, so I'm going to read it again. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Tomorrow you march out against them. You will find them coming up through the ascent of Ziz, and at the end of the valley that opens into the wilderness drill, but you will not even need to fight. Wait, what? We're going to battle, and you just said we don't even need to fight? It says you won't even need to fight. Take your positions, right? Be ready. Then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you, O people of Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Go out against them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. Can you imagine being a soldier in that army? Hey, listen, we're going to do things a little different this time. The Lord said, don't fight. Excuse me, what? He said, we're going to prep, and we're going to go to the fight, but we're not going to fight. I think I've been like, what if they swing first? Like, right? Like, I got some questions. If I see arrows aiming at me, can I put my shield up? Like, I said, right? But the Lord spoke. They had a word from God now. The battle's not yours. It's His. He told them exactly what to do. They have one job. We have one job. It's called obedience. It's called obedience. They still have to obey. They still got to march out. They still got to do what He said when they said to do it. But all they have to do is be obedient. Verse 18. Then King Jehoshaphat bowed low with his face to the ground, and all the people of Judah and Jerusalem did the same, worshiping the Lord. Then the Levites from the clans of Kohath and Korah stood to praise the Lord, the God of Israel, with a very loud shout. Early the next morning, the army of Judah went out into the wilderness, and on the way, Jehoshaphat stopped and said, listen to me, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, and you will be able to stand firm. Believe in His prophets, and you will succeed. After consulting the people, the king anointed singers to walk ahead of the army, singing to the Lord and praising Him for His holy splendor. This is what they sang. Give thanks to the Lord. He is faithful. His love endures forever. Nothing about His mighty strong arm. Nothing about His ability to defeat the enemy. That's not what they sang. They sang, give thanks to the Lord. His faithful love endures forever. Can I just say that doesn't feel like a battle cry to me? They're marching ahead of us, and that's what they're singing. But I have this different picture, right? Because the New Testament, the Bible says our battle is not against flesh and blood, but it's against principalities, powers, spirits of this earth. It's not the fight that you think of and the fight that you're used to, right? We're going to go toe-to-toe, and we're going to punch it out. The enemy doesn't do that. He sneaks in with deception. He sneaks in with doubt, right? He's just going to try and get you to be frustrated with something. He doesn't, what I say, he doesn't fight fair. It's not someone you can just go punch in the mouth. It's different than that, right? It's a spiritual battle. They knew that's what God had called them to in this moment. They weren't going to draw their swords. It's not this fight. It's His. I feel like many of you guys tonight, God is telling you, it's not your battle. It's mine. Here's all you got to do. Be obedient to me. Give thanks. Give thanks to the Lord. His faithful love endures forever. Verse 24. So when the army of Judah arrived at the lookout point in the wilderness, all they saw were dead bodies lying on the ground as far as they could see. Not a single one of the enemy had escaped. It said when the music played that they got frustrated. There was 3 different tribes that were there. And 2 tribes started taking out one tribe. And then they started taking out each other. And then they got confused, and then they were all just killing each other. They didn't have to raise a sword. But remember, Jehoshaphat was terrified because it was a vast army. So we're not talking about a few people. But they sought God in the middle of that battle. They fasted. They prayed. They came together. They got a word from God, and then they walked it out. Can I just tell you that's a guaranteed victory every time? Every time that's a guaranteed victory. Whatever you're going through, you rally your people, man. You fast, you pray, and He's going to win the battle for you. It almost feels like cheating, to be honest with you. There's so many things in life where I'm like, how did that just work out? There's no way that should work out. There's no way that should have worked on my behalf. And then I realize, man, God, I love you. Man, I'm going to give thanks. I know who you are. I'm going to be obedient. There's so much victory in that. Luke chapter 10, verse 17. When the 70 missionaries returned to Jesus, they were ecstatic with joy, telling Him, Lord, even the demons obeyed us when we commanded them in your name. Jesus replied, while you were ministering, I watched Satan topple till he fell suddenly from heaven like lightning to the ground. Now you understand that I have imparted to you all my authority to trample over His kingdom. Listen to that. He's telling His disciples, like, listen, I've given you all authority to trample over his kingdom. You will trample upon every demon before you and overcome every power Satan possesses. Absolutely nothing will be able to harm you as you walk in this authority. However, your real source of joy isn't merely that these spirits submit to your authority, but that your names are written in the journals of heaven and that you belong to God's kingdom. This is the true source of your authority. That's the New Living Translation. That's the Passion Translation. I love it. I love it. He's given us an authority to take whatever ground you need to take. Whatever he's placed in your heart, he's given you the authority to walk it out. Whatever it is. And he says, listen, everywhere you go, yes, the demon, everything. That doesn't even matter. Can I just tell you what matters? That you've given me your life. That we get to spend eternity together. That's your true source of joy. That's your true understanding. Because the Bible says we're heirs with Christ. We're heirs with Christ. My kids are my heirs. Whatever I have at the end of this life, they get. They're heirs. Jesus, we're co-heirs with Christ. Whatever's God's, ours. Please understand that. I don't know how you're living and I don't know how you're walking life out, but you got to start walking out like God's your dad. And you're a co-heir with Christ. Can I tell you, when Jesus walked on this earth, he walked with an authority because he knew who his dad was. He knew who had his back. He knew it. He knew it. But I don't know that we walk that way. Even though he said he gives us that same authority. He's laid it out for us. Number 4, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world. And here's what I mean by that. I'm going to read a story. Joshua, probably my favorite character in the Bible. Like, he led the people in the promised land. And what I love about the character of Joshua is Moses is this phenomenal leader. Right? But he's not the one chosen to lead people in the promised land. Right? And Moses, when he dies, the Bible gives the leadership to Joshua. But the way it names Joshua is it calls him Moses' assistant. It says in Joshua, Moses' assistant. And that always stood out to me because Joshua, at the heart of who he was a servant. He just served Moses. Right? There's a time where Moses is up having a meeting with God on the mountain, and the people all decide he's been gone too long. We don't know what to do. They start throwing gold together, and they form this calf. But Joshua's not with them. Joshua's at the foot of the mountain because he knows Moses is up there, and he's Moses' assistant. So he's not going to go be with the people doing that. He's waiting for Moses to come back down from the mountain, right? Joshua, is this amazing character in the Bible. And here's his last words. Joshua chapter 23. The years passed, and the Lord had given the people of Israel rest from all their enemies. Joshua, who now was very old, called together all the elders, the leaders, the judges, the officers of Israel. And he said to them, I am now a very old man, which I'm sure they could see that. You have seen everything the Lord your God has done for you during my lifetime. The Lord your God has fought for you against your enemies. The Lord your God has fought for you. I have allotted to you as your homeland all the land of the nations you conquered, yet unconquered, as well as the land of those who have already conquered. From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea in the west, this land will be yours. For the Lord your God will himself drive out all the people living there now. You will take possession of their land, just as the Lord your God promised you. He's reminding them what God has promised them. Right? You're going to hear that a lot when you come here. When Pastor Bill speaks, you're going to hear him reminding you that God's promised you health, that God's promised you prosperity. That's all Joshua's doing here. Right? It's the end of his life, and he's like, listen, I know I'm old. I may not get to see all this, but I'm just telling you that remember what God spoke to us. So be careful to follow everything Moses wrote in the book of instruction. Do not deviate from it, turning either to the right or the left. Make sure you do not associate with other people still remaining in the land. Do not even mention the names of their gods, much less swear by them or serve them or worship them. Rather, cling tightly to the Lord your God as you have done until now. For the Lord has driven out great and powerful nations for you, and no one has yet been able to defeat you. Right? He's reminding them. He's building them up. He's like, remember these things, right? I'm your leader, and I think you're thinking I'm your source, but I'm not. It's God. It always has been. I'm going to be God, and you're still going to get these promises. Verse 12. But if you turn away from him and you cling to the customs of the survivors of these nations remaining among you, and if you're intermarried with them, then know for certain that the Lord your God will no longer drive them out of your land. I read that, and I was like, what? If you don't completely, we've written a script. It's called the Bible, right? Stick to this, and you'll get everything. But if you deviate from it, and these people that you conquer, if you begin to take on their customs, they have customs, right? Every group of people has customs. If you begin to take on their customs, you're going to lose it all. In Romans chapter 12, verse 2, we've heard it the last few weeks. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world. The world is not going to find peace the way we find peace. The world is not going to find victory the way we find victory, because it's one name. It's Jesus. They're not dependent on him as we are, but they're also not guaranteed a victory like we are because of Jesus. Please know that. But you're going to see customs. You're going to see people, man, they got to the top by going this way. That's not your route. That's not your route. The Bible says the way to get to the top is by serving. It says the greatest among us is a servant to all. But you're going to see people get to the top. They're not going to last up there. It's not how God intended them to get to the top. Let me finish this. Verse 13. Then know for certain that the Lord your God will no longer drive them out of your land. Say there will be a snare and a trap to you, a whip for your backs and a thorny brambles in your eyes, and you will vanish from its good land the Lord your God has given you. Soon I will die, going the way of everything on earth. Deep in your hearts you know that every promise of the Lord your God has come true. Not a single one has failed. You know it. Deep in your hearts you know what he's promised is true, and not a single one has failed. That man had seen battle after battle after battle. And at the end of his life, he's like, here's what I can say. What God promised, he produced. He did not fail on the things that he spoke to us. That's what he wants to do in your life. He wants you to be as Joshua was at the end of his life. Man, look at all the battles we won. Man, everything that I promised you, you got, you had. Psalms 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. That visual is stuck in my head. Right? If you're surrounded by enemies, it doesn't feel like a time to set a table and eat. It doesn't. It feels like grab a quick snack because we're about to battle. It's about to go down, right? I got to figure out who's with me and who's not with me. But the Bible says that God sets a table before us in the presence of our enemies. He's not worried about your enemies. He's not concerned about them. He's preparing a table for you because he knows the victory's yours. That's why he prepares a table. That's why he's like, you can sit down. You can eat. This battle is won. The victory is yours. Man, I've read that verse so many times, and I'm telling you, lately, it's like it's coming to life. That it doesn't matter what we go through in life, right? Some of it seems huge, some of it seems small, but you're going through all this stuff. And he says, I'm setting a table for you. Because let me just tell you, when I sit at a table, I'm relaxed. This is my spot, right? Like, what are we eating? If the Lord's cooking, it's going to be good. I just promise you that. He says, I'm setting a table for you in the presence of your enemies. That's guaranteed victory. There's nothing that you're dealing with that God can't give you the victory. Nothing. Not a single thing. The battle isn't yours anyways, it's his. Let him fight on your behalf. He doesn't lose. Our God doesn't lose. Our God doesn't lose. Our God doesn't lose. He wins. He's victorious.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Guts Church YouTube channel. I'm Pastor Chano Trevino, the assistant pastor here at Guts Church. And on behalf of our leadership team, our staff, our church, it's our hope that this message met you right where you are. If it did, I bet there's someone you know who could use the encouragement of this message in their life. And you sharing it with them can make all the difference. The mission of Guts Church is to help people win. And you can be a part of that simply by sharing, or better yet, inviting someone to tune into Guts Church online with you every week. Take that next step to be a part of what God is doing right now in this moment in time by being committed to showing up, placing a premium on God's word, and receiving all that God has for you. You can share this message, gather your friends for services, make it a priority to make this the place you want to be. God has so much for you. I truly believe that. We love you. We're praying for you. Can't wait to see you soon.